Oh, Dune, Book 5, also known as Heretics of Dune, is something. Welcome to Walking Without Rhythm. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Noah.
and we just finished Heretics of Dune, also known as When Frank Herbert Lost His Mind. I have two alternative titles for this book that would have fit a lot better.
Hmm.
First one is Chair Dogs of Dune. Everyone sits in sentient chairs called chair dogs, and it is constantly brought up. And then I looked up what a chair dog looked like, and I wished I hadn't. So I had to send it to Noah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Nightmare fuel. The other one is Sex Powers of Dune. This is the most sexual that these Dune books have gotten.
Hmm.
I mean, most of the plot stems around sex. So we need to just. I want to lay down some things here. This is the first Dune book to be written post a Dune movie. By this time, I do believe the David Lynch Dune film was out. This would be about 84. I think they came out the same year. Um, the other thing is that Frank Herbert's wife died.
I think that happened after this one came out.
I don't know if it's before or after, but her favorite faction was the Bene Gesserit. So the Bene Gesserit are now, or Gesserit. I've heard both pronunciations. Bene Gesserit are now the protagonists, kind of, sort of. Well, here's the thing with Heretics of Dune. No one's particularly likable in this book.
Hmm.
Like in Dune, the Atreides are considered the heroes, right? Um, but as we've gotten each book, it gets grayer and grayer on who's in the right. And we get the God Emperor of Dune, and Leto is this 3,000-year-old tyrant, but he's likable. He's interesting. Heretics of Dune's problem is that there really is no protagonist of it, and no one's super likable.
I think the only character I was attached to was Teg.
Teg, and I do like Duncan, but that's like,
Hmm.
of course we have another Gola Duncan,
But the difference this time, he's a teenager.
and he has sex powers.
We will get to that.
So, well, there's a few differences. Something weird happens to both Teg and Duncan
Hmm.
within a chapter of each other, I think, or within a couple chapters of each other. It happens right around the same time. Things happen to them that don't make any sense at all. But we'll get to that because this book's a whole series of things don't make any sense. It's just, this is the beginning of being off the rails in a bad way. Because I don't think this book, the first half of this book is a drag. First half of this book took 2 months for me to read. The second half took me a week. This book is tedious. So it's been 1,500 years since the tyrant, as they call him, Leto the Second, died. Um, the scattering happened. A bunch of people just from different like factions, like the Twi'lexu and the Bene Gesserit, and like the Ixians and all of them, they left. They left the known galaxy, and they're coming back, and they are the honored Matre.
Hmm.
Um, and they're sort of the primary antagonist of this book, but kind of everyone. No one's good. I can't stress this enough. The main two factions we really deal with are the Twi'lexu, which I think this is the first time we really get anything with the Twi'lexu. They've been there since Dune Messiah, but we really didn't know anything about them except for they made Golas
Hmm.
with their axolotl tanks.
Yeah, I would count that as a positive here because I did find them interesting and their whole stuff with the Golas. At
Yeah,
least,
that's interesting. The We learn more about the Bene Gesserit as well,
hmm,
and I don't know who's in power of the universe now. I don't think there's an emperor. I don't think there's anything. I think they just all coexist,
hmm,
which is kind of bizarre. This is the first one that they don't really deal with politics. They're clearly on the golden path, which is what Leto the Second wanted. But I don't think they have a leader. And the other thing that really threw me off is things are just named differently. Arrakis/Dune is now called Rakis. Gideon Prime is now, oh god, I can't remember what it's called, and half the books on that planet,
hmm.
which was the Harkonnens planet, which there are no Harkonnens anymore. There are no Carinos anymore. There
But
are
there's a bunch of Atreides everywhere.
well, so technically they've all blended into Atreides at this point. I can't remember who the woman was, the woman Atreides and God Emperor of Dune. They're all descendants of her, though. Her and I think it's implied that Gola Duncan, Idaho.
Yep.
But the Bene Gesserit once again have control of their breeding program, and you're supposed to believe they're the good guys, but not all of them are good.
Yeah, there's like infighting going on.
Yes. So they keep getting Duncan Idahos for breeding purposes and weird things, but this current Duncan Idaho, there's something different about him. They believe the Twi'lexu they keep buying Gola Duncan Idahos from the Twi'lexu, and the Twi'lexu keep assassinating them
Hmm.
until this one. And this one's different, and so Mother Teresa, not Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa. I get what he's doing there.
And not Mother Tilson.
No, no. She's like the primary Reverend Mother of all of the Bene Gesserit, and she's as friendly as she can be with this other Reverend Mother named Odrade, who is sent to Arrakis because there is another Atreides descendant
Hmm.
that can control the worms. And the worms all potentially have some consciousness of Leto the Second in them, which doesn't matter in this book, except for they bring it up constantly.
Hmm. And
So
I can
just,
only assume that's payoff for the next one.
I guess. Um, and the plan is, I guess, to have the Duncan Idaho and Shiana is her name breed. Shiana's a turd. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I could not stand her. She's a little brat
Yeah,
throughout the book.
I mean, I found her character somewhat more interesting, especially at first. But then
Oh
she
yeah,
kind of
because
got
her family's killed by the worm.
yeah,
One of
and
the
I think the
worms.
scenes with her and the worm and like she confronting him and then learning how to ride him, I think all of that is good and like really visual in my head. But then her plot line to me kind of gets lost in all the
Yeah, when
Bene
the
Gesserit
rest of
stuff.
the book starts happening about halfway through.
Mhm.
when the Duncan stuff starts paying off.
Yep.
Because this book, I think, takes the most time. There's a large time lapse in this book compared to the previous Dune books. Um, Honestly, I think it's like 5 years.
Mm.
Because I don't think the Gola Duncan's a teenager yet in the beginning of the book, and he's a teenager. His body's a teenager by the end.
Yeah, I think he's like 14 at the beginning.
He Okay, yeah, and so he's probably 7. He's not an adult yet,
Yeah, he's like 17 years, so like 3 years.
and she's 13 or 14 by the end, but she was a little. She was like 8 in the
Hmm.
beginning. Um, but there are priests leftovers from, I guess, a combination of the Fremen and the fish speakers, which the fish speakers are brought up, but they have no power anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and there are no Fremen anymore. They make that pretty clear near the end of the book that there's just this groveling old woman that is a descendant of Fremen, and this Reverend Mother is this Benny Gesserit woman is pissed about it.
Hmm.
Who is also a terrible character. Duncan's imprinter, I guess, mother figure that wants to sleep with him. But we'll get
Hmm.
to that, I guess. Um, we haven't talked about. We've mentioned Tag, but Tag is the mentat for the Bene Gesserit. He's pretty old and wants to be retired, but he has a loyalty to the Bene Gesserit. And like Paul, he is trained in some of their ways because his mother went rogue, which I guess is more and more a thing they say in Heretics of Dune, which I don't like.
Hmm.
I think the point of this book is to show that traditions change. I guess that's the point of this. That's what I was wondering the whole time reading is what is the point? Because God Emperor, there is a point to it. Children of Dune has a point. Even Dune Messiah has a point. But this, it was very. I think it's his most wishy washy so far,
Hmm.
which makes me worried about Chapter House. And if it's going to be more of this. Chapter House is the only one that's like a direct sequel.
Hmm.
So we'll see. But anyway, um, there's a betrayal with the Bene Gesserit, and they have to. Tag has to take this Reverend Mother whose name's escaping me. It's like
Because there's so
Marcella.
many.
There's like, is it Marcella? I think it's something like that. And
Lucilla?
what's that?
Lucilla? Like something like
Lucilla.
that.
Yes, yes, it is Lucilla. And Duncan go into hiding, and then Teg restores his memories too soon before she's had her way with him. There's a lot of trying to fuck Duncan Idaho against his will,
Hmm.
which he's never been a fan of being a stud for anyone, especially the witches as he calls them. But my god, his dick is the catnip for everyone. And we find out that he has sex powers.
Shall we just get into all of this? Because it's not just him, it's in general. The
It's with
whole
the
Bene Gesserit thing.
Twi'lexu, and the honored Matre. They're Twi'lax. I think they're like they were Twi'lexu, and they're more in a more extreme version of the Bene Gesserit where they're completely controlled by sex and they can
Yeah.
kill people with sex, and like it's just bizarre. The Bene Gesserit call them whores. They call them the whores the whole time, which did get a chuckle out of me. But they have the power to have sex and they go insane and die.
Yeah, they say their techniques are so good they can completely control people with it.
Yeah, and which does lead to one of the several of the strangest things. One of them is that Odrade has a demonstration from the Twi'leksu just out in the open in front of everyone, including the Shiana.
Hmm.
And
But
yeah,
don't worry, they also started her training in that already.
yeah.
I think this is what Matt Wilkins warned us about with like the more sexual
Well, he
content.
warned us about the Duncan, Idaho part,
Hmm.
the worst of it, which we do have to warn you because it's just the weirdest thing. This book becomes porno. Like it doesn't mess around. It straight up becomes a porno near the end of it when everyone, basically all of Duncan's party, has been captured.
Hmm.
Oh jeez. By sorry, I hit a cable. It was my audio cable. Um anyway, all of Duncan's party's been captured by the honored Matre, and one has like imprinted on him, which gives him the ability to realize all of his Gola past. Because I guess he's been mixed with tissue from other previous Duncan Golas, so he relives all of his deaths
Yep.
and like past lovers and stuff, which is interesting. Although I was a little bummed they didn't talk about when Stilgar killed the first
Hmm.
Gola. That would have been powerful. But
But the main
Duncan,
thing is he becomes he during this he gets ultra sex powers.
mm-hmm,
And he has sex with that lady so good he breaks her spirit.
uh-huh. She's forever she forever has to have that Duncan dick. And that's how we got an explicit tag. I couldn't resist. But this book's
Worth
not
it.
for children.
Yeah, none of them are, but this one especially.
This one's weird. But before this, Miles Tegg,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
he gets captured,
he
he
gets
gets tortured, and it's actually one of my favorite chapters, probably, because it's so weird, but also really like I'm kind of into it. He gets tortured, and he essentially removes himself, like from the torture, and he goes deep into his own mind, like so not to feel the pain and stuff. And during that, he has like an awakening, and
yeah, and he becomes a freaking Terminator, an
yeah, no,
elderly,
he develops the Quicksilver powers.
yeah, and he brutally murders a bunch of he brutally murders his torturers, and then he can just
Then he
now tap
escapes.
into that.
Then he escapes, goes somewhere else that's like a building filled with enemies, and then he's like, guess I have to kill them all. Like he knows he can do that with no problem because for him he has Quicksilver, the time thing, where everything is extremely slowed down, and he's just super fast, killing everyone with no problem. Pretty
With
epic,
his bare
actually.
hands,
Yep.
and he kills a like the honored Matre leader,
Hmm.
or at least the one that's on Gamu. That's the planet. It used to be
Oh,
Gideon Prime. It's now Gamu. He kills her
hmm.
later, and because he's such a world renowned, like universe renowned, like general. He's the Basher. He gets a bunch of just random drunk people that served under him at one time to help him rescue Duncan and Lucilla, which we don't get to see.
No, but we get to hear that he apparently sacrificed himself.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that's true because I've heard he's in the next book.
Yeah, that might be a surprise.
Oh,
That
okay.
might be. It's all right. There are a whole bunch of things that I know that Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert throw in those sequels
Hmm.
that are going to make you cringe.
Yeah,
Um,
that's gotta be great.
yeah, we're getting close to that. Well, we need to, unfortunately for you, because you love Kevin J. Anderson so much. We have to read at least 6 of the prequel books
Uh,
beforehand, and it will make sense of what he throws in the 2 sequels to Chapter House, which was supposed to be one book. It was supposed to be one book. They stretched it out to 2.
oh god, this is 8 Kevin J. Anderson books. That's a nightmare come true.
I
I,
don't
I still
mind it.
say I still say I'm gonna read the sequel duology because that should stand on its own. It absolutely should. Oh my god.
Well, there's a certain something from the the prequels that get shoehorned in.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard about that. Not exactly sure what exactly or how much, but yeah, I've
I
heard
know
there's.
what it is, and it irritates the shit out of me.
Hmm.
And that's saying something because I put up with a lot for Kevin J. Anderson because I think his writing's pretty engaging, despite dumb things being in there. I forgive it. It's not Troy Denning.
Hmm.
It's not Karen Travis. You know,
Yeah.
but oh god, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this book. Like I was kind of dreading this. I've been dreading this episode because this is the first time I genuinely it was such a slog for me to get through this cuz nothing happens for half this book.
Mhm.
Like nothing.
It's a
It's
lot of talk and setup, but unlike all like the previous 4 books, it's not really that engaging in here or interesting.
yeah, part of the problem is that the Duncan Idaho Gola doesn't have his Duncan memories. So it's not Duncan, Idaho, but it is. It's right about when he gets his memories back, the book gets engaging. And it's just like, oh, I'm so glad we have a Duncan, Idaho again.
Mhm.
Let this poor man stay dead, but no, now he has sex powers. And
Yeah.
he's pissed that he's back. He's really mad that he's in a child's body.
Yeah.
What's the next time they're gonna have a Gullah Duncan? Is he gonna be a 4-year old?
A Duncan baby.
Like I don't know what else is left to do with the Duncan Idahos.
He's an 80-year-old man instead of like a middle-aged one. That's like the other extreme he could do.
Oh, he's just an elderly, but he's got the young brain.
Hmm. He still has the sex power and the sex drive.
But he
Oh
can't do
boy.
anything about it.
Yeah. And then we get like 300 pages talking about how he can't get it up again. You know?
But the women find him irresistible anyway. Because that's the thing. The Benny Gesserit want to train him so that no woman can resist him.
Hmm.
That's like their goal. And I think they're trying to control the worms, like because Shiona can control the worms. Well, ultimately, can we just should we spoil the end?
We should because it leads into the next one, like straight sequel, like we said.
The Honor Matre are gonna just destroy Arrakis, and so our heroes, with the exception of Teg and his merry band of drunks, um, escape with a sandworm in the hull of
Hmm.
their ship. Oh, that's another thing. They don't need the navigators anymore. They have null ships That's the
Mhm,
other weird thing. There are no navigators. So there's actual space travel in this.
mhm.
Like a lot of it compared to the other Dune books.
Yeah.
Which I wonder what happened to the navigators. I know they're mentioned, but I don't remember why they're mentioned other than they're not used anymore.
Hmm.
They're weird fish-like beings. Do you not remember that from Dune Messiah?
I remember it. I remember it. I'm trying to remember if they say what happened to them, but I don't.
But yeah, they have the node ships now, which don't need navigators because they don't need the spice to travel anymore. Which was the whole point of the scattering, um, and the chaos and all that.
Mhm.
So
But
I
so
guess
really, really simple. The main plot of the book is basically the Bene Gesserit against like an evil version of them from outside the galaxy.
Mhm.
And again, they're fighting about the sandworms and the spice.
And this feels like the beginning of the end.
Yeah,
You can tell that this is the final story is unfolding.
yeah, especially because at the end, what happened with the planet, which we
Yeah,
don't see, but we hear about it.
yeah, which makes me believe that Chapter House is going to be like, oh, this,
A little
be
retcon.
all these things. That spoilers. It's like when Paul's first son Leto died. It's like, oh, he's gonna have another son. We're also gonna call it Leto. I have a feeling something like that's just gonna happen.
Mm, great. Oh, did we even mention Tech? His thing is like they choose him to watch over the Duncan Gola because he looks just like the first Leto.
Yes, because
Paul's
he's
dad.
also an Atreides.
Mhm.
He's an Atreides. Odrade's his daughter
Yeah.
that he never knew.
Mhm.
She's an
Which
Atreides.
was which was weird at first because I think it takes a while for that revelation, and so it just feels like he's setting them up as like almost romantic.
No, that's Lucilla.
That's Lucilla.
I'm pretty sure that's Lucilla wants to bone him.
Okay, I kept confusing those two characters.
Lucilla's younger.
Yeah.
They want a younger one so she can teach Duncan how to use his sex powers,
Mhm.
his magic wang.
I think it's fair to say Herbert was lonely when writing this. I'm just gonna assume his wife just didn't suddenly die. She probably had an illness.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Because like we said, the previous books have sexual stuff and
Mhm.
kind of perverted stuff, but there's like a point to it. This one, I guess there is supposed to be a point to it, but it just feels so. I don't know what to call it. Like schlocky.
It feels like porn. It feels
Yeah.
like porn at times. Like we're reading a Dollar Tree porno book because it's not well written. There's like a whole sequence where Lucilla is supposed to disguise herself as an honored matre, and she and this Ixian it's a face dancer. The Twi'lexu face dancer
Hmm.
are arguing about how many different ways to pleasure a man. And that is just the dumbest conversation. And so I listen to these books. I listen to these books on audio. And every morning at 4 a.m., I go for a walk. And I go for a walk around my town. And I'm just listening to that while walking in the cold. And I'm just like, what has my life become? Walk into the gas station to get a coffee. And I'm like listening to all the
To
how a vagina works.
20 pages of it.
It's just forever. It's forever. It's like an entire chapter of
Mhm.
this heated argument about it. And the Bene Gesserit always have to be right. That's another thing in this book, and that irritated me.
Mhm.
Except for Shuang Yu. Chong Yu died, and it was pretty wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad she died because I can't take her seriously with that name.
She was just comically obnoxious.
Mhm.
Well, she was what's her face. She was all like the stand-in for what's her face, the Reverend Mother in the first two books.
Mhm.
She acted like that, and they thankfully got rid of her quickly. And then I'm starting to have audio issues. Sorry. Can you hear
That's fine.
that? The hum?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap this up real fast here. What would you rate this book, Noah?
Ooh. How did I rank the previous with like 5 out of 5 or something? This is the weakest, I would say.
Oh,
There's still stuff
easily.
in here I like. I want to make that clear. There's still good stuff here, and I guess if you've read the previous four, yeah, go ahead, finish the
Hmm.
entire saga. I would say, but it is the weakest. What it did do, it made me appreciate Dune Messiah more,
Yeah,
even more so
same.
than even more so than Children of Dune did. Uh, I would give it like a 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5 at best.
I was going to give it about 2.7 out of 5
Okay, that's
because
fair.
a lot of this is just a slog to get through.
Mhm.
This is when the series starts getting really bizarre. So, yeah, we have Chapter House Dune next. Are you excited? That'll be our season finale.
I am excited, to finish this original saga. I'm also worried how it's gonna be after Heretics,
Mhm.
and I'm even more worried after that because I don't want to read the Kevin prequels.
Well, we only need to read 6 before we get into the Kevin sequels, and then we go back into prequels after that.
Oh, how great!
Because that's when he gets into the whole schools of Dune. Well, no, actually, it's in between books before that. So we have Paul of Dune, which is apparently pretty good.
Then we
That
get Winds of Dune about his
that's
mom.
considered like the worst
Then
of
we
like
get the Road to Dune.
yes, which is the nonfiction book.
Yeah, it does have a lot of fiction. It has like a first draft version of the original Dune novel and a bunch of short stories by
Mhm.
Kevin and Brian.
I think it
Uh,
also has some non like explaining things,
oh yeah, that's also in there. Yeah,
which I'm looking forward to that. Then we have Schools of Dune, which is kind of interesting, which is like the origins of the Bene Gesserit, the Navigators, and Mentats.
I can actually get the list up. I have it here. Yeah. Prelude to Dune is the first trilogy, then Legends of Dune, Road to Dune, then the sequels. Oh, so we have to read Road to Dune before the sequels. That's how it came out.
Oh, okay. Then
So that's 7 books before the sequels. Then Heroes of Dune is the Paul one and the Winds of Dune. Then Great Schools of Dune, the Caladan trilogy, and then what's coming out this year,
it's
the
already
latest
out.
one. Oh, it's already out.
It
Oh, oh
just
my
came
god.
out.
Oh my god.
Princess of Dune, which
Yeah.
was I think technically the third Heroes of Dune book
Yeah, pretty much so, I would say.
that no one cared about that series. Even though
But
Paul of
now,
Dune's apparently pretty good. Winds of Dune is so bad that they never bothered to finish
Mhm.
that, but I think they are
but
with
now,
Princess of Dune.
yeah, now they're bringing it back, and you know why? Because the Dune movie part two.
Yes.
Gotta cash in a little bit.
Oh yeah, they're releasing all sorts of comics and stuff that are just adaptations of the Kevin J. Anderson stuff.
Hmm.
So anyway. All right. Well, we'll join us next time as we tackle Chapter House Dune. Goodbye.
Bye.